אל המעיין בגדי קטן בגדי לבן, מי יין תבודי מי חורן. השלום ללבן בן בתואל, השלום ליעקב ולרחל, וינג'י ויאמר שלום. My name is Ethel Kerzner. My birth date is December the 4th, 31. And I'm 83 years old now. I was born in Troyanuvka, it's the Ukraine. My father was a butcher, and his name was Kot, K-O-T, and his name was Mordechai Kot. My mother was Rissi, and I had a brother which was older than me. I was the baby. His name was Moshe, and I had a sister older than me, and her name was Gittel. I was very close to them. My father looked after me all the time, and my sister took me to school, walked me to school all the time, because I was the baby, and they wanted to make sure I'm okay. I was the favorite because I was the baby, and everybody would cater to me. And I took advantage of it. If they didn't do what I told them, I would cry. The year was 1942, and I was 11 years old. I can remember going to a Polish school, kindergarten, and then to Hebrew school, to kindergarten. And I used to speak both languages, and I still do. I still understand them. But I was Polish, not the Ukrainians weren't there. It was Poland when I was first there. And after a while, things changed. Things changed a lot. It was a change for the Jewish people, and I'm Jewish. All of a sudden, our neighbors were not nice. The business we didn't do it. My father didn't do business with them anymore. He couldn't, and things got pretty bad. We had an extra room in our house, and a couple from Lodge, a couple with a young child came in, and they rented that room to think that they would hide out in our small towns while the Germans are having a good time. And you know what I mean, a good time. Just to make sure that they put Jewish people in camps and kill them for no reason at all, just for being Jewish. I don't know exactly how old I was, but I was old enough to know that there was something terribly wrong. One morning, there were police from this town coming around and telling all the Jewish people to come out to the big church in the middle of the town. All the Jewish people had to come out and meet down there. And if they didn't come, they would come and get them. And that's what they did. They decided to take all the Jewish people, gather them in one place around the church. So they went from how they knew each Jewish house, so they went from house to house and got the people, and it was only one German. The rest, the people did it, the neighbors. And they told them, anything you want from the Jewish homes, you can just help yourself. And that's exactly what happened. And then they got everybody together. They had big grave ready. They had people with guns and just to do it. And they did it. I was with my father and my brother and my mother and sister. We were all together. And there was a policeman taking a whole bunch of Jewish people near that church. And he had a rifle, one rifle, and he had a whole pile of people. And as I was very young, I never saw a dead person. As I was walking with them, I saw a dead body, a girl, a neighbor of mine's daughter. So I got awfully, awfully upset, and I just turned around and started running back. And the policeman that was with the rifle, he kept yelling at me, "Come back, come back." But I was so scared that I just kept running. And when I stopped running, I said to myself, "Where am I? Where am I going? What am I doing?" Anyhow, and then I remembered that not far from where I was standing, there was a lady that used to come. I went to school with her daughter. And I said, "Well, I don't know what to do." I was crying. So I rang her bell. When I walked in, she got very, very frightened. And she said, "Oh my God, what am I going to do with you? Where am I going to hide you? Oh my God." So I just stood there. I was a kid. I just stood there and do what you want. So she said, "I'll tell you what. Do you know where my daughter," I went to school with her daughter. So she says, "Do you know where my daughter keeps the cows on the weekend? She keeps the cows." And I knew it was near a forest. And I knew approximately where it was. So she says, "You'll come back at night with her, and then I'll see maybe I'll be able to make a little place for you, and maybe I'll be able to hide you there. I don't know. But you come back with her, but don't cry. Don't do that." So I didn't cry anymore. I jumped. And I kept going and going until I saw just near the forest. I never met her. I didn't see her because a neighbor of mine was in a ditch. They were also running to the forest because in the Ukraine, the forests are so thick you can see through them. Somebody could be in front of you, you wouldn't see it. So they were in a ditch, sitting, resting for a few minutes, and then entering the forest. There was my neighbor, his wife, and a little baby, 5 months, maybe 4 months, I don't know. So I jumped in too, because they were familiar, so I jumped in too. And I followed them, with them. We went into the forest, and we were there for quite a while. We were there for, I'm not sure the amount of time, but we were there a long time, running wild, running away. That couple that at the beginning, when I went into the ditch with them and I walked with them back to the forest, into the forest, they had the baby, so the baby was crying, it was hungry, so they had to kill the baby. And that got me very upset. And I started running just running. I said, "But where are you running? You have to come back. You have no choice." So when we came in and we met some other people, we sort of stuck together. And they were looking for us all the time, steady. There was a report done from the Ukrainian people that all the Jewish people, if they come back, we won't touch them, we won't kill them. Some of them went back. And of course, they got killed immediately. When we were alone running in the forest, and somebody went to the washroom outside, and he said, "Run, run, run." So we all ran in every direction because, and there was a pregnant lady, and I could hear the shots that they found her and they were killing her. And I heard those shots, I knew. So, and how young I was, I understood that that's what's happened. She was pregnant, she couldn't move, and They found it, and he killed her. Tava was 2 years older than me. Our parents were sister and brother. I remember when we were running wild in the forest before anything, trying to survive, and when I met Tova's mother, she and her father, they all survived with the 2 children. That was my mother's relative. And I can remember she took my shirt off. I only had one shirt. And she it was a fire, and like they were burning a fire for heat. And she went like this with my shirt, and it was crackling. You know what it was? You can figure that out? Lice. And she put back the shirt on me. Then I saw my father. I met him and my brother right there. They ran away. When it's a big group, and there's usually one. When I was running away, there was only one person, and he wasn't a German even. I think I don't even know if there was a German in the town. But we were so hungry that we had no food. After a while, people had to go and get some food, steal some potatoes in a garden or something like that to eat because we were starving or getting a loaf of bread. So some of the people that went to ask for, the neighbors killed them, shot them right away. There's no question about it. My brother, my father went out because they thought that this man that he did business with, he thought he would go there and he would perhaps get some potatoes and some bread and things like that. Well, he did go, and that man did business with my father all the time because my father was a kosher butcher. And he shot them both. Yeah, he killed them both. Anyhow, so when he didn't come back, we realized that was what happened, and then I was left alone. But I wasn't alone because there were people that I knew. So we stuck together. We stuck together. And it was pretty bad. I imagined that eventually they would have cut us all. But what happened, some, what do you call them, the people, the Germans also tried to kill them too. They were gypsies in that forest. And they got together, our boys that were with and their people, they got together, and they said that we should make one group, but their idea was, forget about the women and children, just leave them alone, just the men. So the Jewish boys said, oh, get out of here, no way. Anyhow, so after a while they came back and they agreed to build something underneath, underground. And they stole quite a bit of stuff, and they built something underground, and we lived there. We built a bunker, and we were all safer there. There may have been as many as 75 of us. I'm not sure exactly, but around that amount. And some of them left and they didn't come back because they shot them. I was underground all the time. Once in a while, we would go out, a couple of girls, you know, and just look around and go right back in because we knew that you never know who comes around. They were looking for us all the time. They knew we were there somewhere, but they couldn't The forests were so thick and so dark, there's no way they could find anything, especially on the ground. Of course it was crowded. It wasn't a room by itself. Of course it was crowded, it was dirty, but you survived. You had lice all the time. We had no other clothes to change. We had no washrooms. You had to go where you had to go. And so there was no routine. You come mature overnight. You're mature overnight. There's no such a thing as play. But within there used to be fights. I even saw a fight between a young boy and a girl fighting over love. How did they think of that even? Two boys and a girl. They both were after the girl, and whichever one, the other one got shot. Whatever happens, happens, and that's what it is. There's no dealing, because you don't know what later brings, or tomorrow brings. You don't know. So you don't deal with that. You just say, stop it, be quiet, that's all. But they don't, that's what it was. The gypsies were very, very good at finding things, if you know what I mean. If they found something, they stole. They stole all kinds of little things to make these stupid bombs. The boys, all the young boys that were going to put the dynamite under the trains, they were very good. They couldn't care. They had a rifle too. They had rifles, yes, but they would kill anybody thinking nothing of it that came near the place. But some of them lost their lives with the bombs, because they would go and, they weren't experts. They weren't experts as kids. One guy got killed, but from making him, they were making them. They didn't know how. They learned. But they had to, that was the life. There was no such thing as life, normal life. There was no normality there. You look after yourself. You become mature overnight. You grow up overnight. When you see a mother killing the child, there's no such thing as living your life. Existing, that's the word you need. Not living your life. No. So that's how we lived for 18 months. Then we heard that the war is over. So we decided to get out of the forest and come into this small town that one of the kids that survived with us, and the parents didn't survive, just one young guy. And we decided to stay in this house because it was an empty house, of course. They took everything out, they stole everything. And the name of the town was Rafalivke. It's in the Ukraine. It's not far from where Troyanuvka is. It's all small little towns. And there were usually Jewish people living there, quite a few. So we went in to the house, to the empty house, and we stayed there for a while. I can't tell you how many, I can't tell you, but all young boys and girls, the young people that survived. And we stayed together. You had to have something. You had to have something to hang on to. So we all together, we became a family. There was a train passing by there with Ukrainian people were on them too, and a young girl, she's still in Israel, and her mother and her brother survived with us from our town. They were neighbors of ours. They survived. And what happened was it was right after the war. The soldiers were Russian soldiers, were very hungry. So in that little house, my aunt and that girl's mother used to bake bread. And they would jump up on the train and sell them the bread. And they would, give them some money. A little business. The soldiers did. But one Ukrainian guy was standing there, and he pushed her, that girl that was trying to get off, and they cut her leg off. Because he knew who she was, like she's Jewish. So he pushed her off, and she fell under the train. And so there was a hospital. The Russians had a hospital because the war was ending, and they had those soldiers to look after. It was right there. So her mother took her in, and they cut the leg off, and she was alive. She got to Israel after years after she got to Israel, and she had a very big position in the government. And from there, we realized that we're not safe here because the Ukrainians will kill us. So we went to Poland, to Lodz. Two of the boys survived, and they were from Lodz. Their parents and them ran away from Lodz into a small town near us. And the parents got killed, and the two boys survived. So the whole bunch of us, we went to Poland. We met lots of people from Lodz, young boys and girls, and we became a family. All these kids that had nobody became a family. Yeah. They were Polish people, Jewish boys, but they were from Poland. So they were, I remember one of them said, "Oh, no, we're going to live in our house." So we went to his house, and sure enough, the apartment was there. It was in Lodz. And we all bunked in. And I don't know where they went, and they got mattresses, and we put it on the floor, and we had. Yeah. The Russians took some of the younger people into to fight with them, which is it's normal. They needed them. I don't blame the Russians for nothing. They didn't kill anybody. I don't blame. It's the Ukrainians. They're always like that. The war came to an end. When the war came to an end, there were lots of people from Israel, young people, came to find out what they can do with this little bit that's left and get them to Israel. We called them shlichim. They had opened up a camp in a kibbutz, guess where? In Germany. Yeah, because the war was over. They came in illegally there, but they opened up a kibbutz, got us all together, and we became a kibbutz to get us into Israel. We walked, you should see how far we walked. From border to border. Once we came, I don't remember which country it was, but it was big hills. They transported us, but we still walked very high up. I know we went in trucks As a matter of fact, one of the young boys uh, that came through the war from my town, Ephraim was his name, and I remember being with him, hiding from country to country. There was an old truck, and we had, I guess, 4 kids he had in there. And he drove us from one border to the other, but we were in the back. But I don't know what he had, crates or whatever he had there. And we were so quiet, we couldn't breathe or anything, because they came to check. And when we came, the whole group, we came to the border, they arrested us. It was supposed to be paid off. So there we are in jail. Oh my God. And the next morning, early morning, the guy that got the money that he was paid off got there, opened up the doors, he said, go. It threw us all out. They paid him. The Israeli person, the shaliach, had a deal with him, but not with the guy that was before him. So we came too early with the walking. So, what I remember walking up high hills. I don't know where it was. I got as far as Italy. And it was in Cremona, Italy, and waiting to get to Israel. It was the Americans from here and the Canadians. There was barracks from the Italian soldiers, and they gave it to the people that were on their way to Israel. They gave them that to stay there. It was fine. Everybody was happy there. The Italians are very fine people. There's no other people like the Italians. They treated us not like refugees. Our boys and girls used to go and play ball with them. They were very, very nice. And we had plenty of food. They were more hungry than us. It all came from United States, but it came in cans, mostly canned foods and powdered milk and things like that, yeah. I volunteered to everything. And I was as clumsy as anything. I volunteered to learn how to shoot, because to Israel you have to learn how to shoot. Israel wasn't Israel. It was Palestine, and the Brits were there, and I knew what was going on there. You remember that old ship, the Exodus? My cousin was on that ship that they sent back, and they said to them, you step one step up here, the Brits said, we'll throw you in the ocean. They sent them back with that old boat. I didn't want to go to Israel. It was too much, I saw too much. I had to. Like if I had to, I'd have gone, but it's not what I wanted. Then I get a letter from somebody from Canada that's supposedly my mom's an aunt. She knew somebody in that camp that somebody told her about the correspondence. So she wrote this personal letter saying, would you know of somebody by the name of Ethel Kot, or any from the Kots? So they told her, yes, there's a little girl. So she wrote me a letter, and she said, I found you, that you're there, and I'd like you to stay there. Don't go anywhere. Don't go to Israel, because I was ready for Israel. Don't go to Israel. Stay there. And my son is working on papers. And as soon as we get the papers, you'll come to Canada. You think I thought Canada? I never heard of Canada. Anyhow, so I stayed there for, I don't remember how long, but I stayed there for quite a while. I said, I want to go to a country. I knew I went through too much. And I said, no, if I have a chance, I'll wait in this camp. And I waited quite a while until my papers came through. I was very sick. I was never on a ship, let alone an old boat. I didn't go direct to Pembroke. I went to Montreal, and I found out that my mother has a brother in Montreal. I stayed with my uncle and aunt in Montreal, not too long. What happened was afterwards, and I also had this aunt from Pembroke that paid for everything. So when I came to Montreal, I just couldn't make myself go to Pembroke to see them because my uncle he used to come at night from work. They lived in a small apartment, my aunt and uncle, and the two kids. And on the way back from work, he would bring in his both hands sweets from Arena Bakery. Because we never had that. So every night he would come on his way from work, and all the kids would gather in their apartment, and we would have a treat. Every night for a long time. Yeah, yeah. And I didn't want to go to Pembroke. And my aunt from Pembroke kept calling him and saying, really, I want to see her. I can't. Can you not send her here with Dorothy? He says, she doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to leave those kids, those young people. And finally, my cousin said to me, her daughter, Ethel, I'm going to take you to, and then I'll go back because I got to go to school. And I couldn't speak any English, not a word. So the two of us went to Pembroke. Dorothy went back to Montreal to go to school. And my aunt and uncle wanted me to stay there for a while. Oh my God. I was awful. I said, I can't, I gotta go back to Montreal. I can't stay here. I'm too lonesome. There were two older folks, and I did a lot of crying. So my aunt was very kind. It's my mother's aunt, actually. She had a very kind attitude. So she says, oh, I'm taking her back to Montreal. Oh, I'm taking her back to Montreal because she's going to get sick here with us. So I said, okay. So the two of us went to Montreal. I was 15 then. We were leaving to Montreal, and so she says to me, the train doesn't go direct to Montreal. It stops in Ottawa, and it takes 3 hours, and then we get another train. I said, okay, what's the difference? But she says, don't worry. We're not going to sit on the train for 3 hours and wait for them to go to Montreal. I have a very good friend, and she'll send somebody to pick us up from the train. Okay. So somebody came, a guy, a son, and he picked us up and brought us to their place. And we had coffee, and then we went back to Montreal. Well, all of a sudden, a little while after, I get from my uncle that was living in Montreal, Uncle Willie. He says to me, Ethel, you know the guy that picked you up? He wants to come see you. His name is Sid Kerzner. So that's how I met my husband. But I had a deal with Sid. The deal was never ask me questions. And he just couldn't. He didn't know it. He talked to other people. He knew. because through my cousin from Israel, he knew, but not for me. I couldn't handle it. It was just painful to say. It's very painful. It takes a lot out of you. And you're just not ready for that. You have to be ready. You think you're the first one that asked me? You have to know you have a past. You can't look forward if you don't have a past. So enjoy life while you can. And be good to each other. And life will be good to you. Because life is short. You don't know what tomorrow brings. And that's what it is. You have to take what's given to you. It's a hand that's given to you, and that's what you have to deal with. And you deal. Dealt with it for so many years. No. I've told you everything I know.